Hi, Year 12. Welcome to MM4, Applications of Area and Volume. Now, much of this topic is a review of things that you've learned all the way back, perhaps even in Stage 4. That's Year 7 and 8, maybe Stage 5, Years 9 and 10. Some of it's new, however. So, to begin with, the first thing that we're going to look at is error in measurement and calculation. Right, this one here, you can see it on the screen. And this is new to us. So, you need to know that whenever you measure something, it's not perfect. Right? You can't measure anything perfectly. Your measuring device, right, whether that's a ruler or a tape measure, and we are looking about length measurements here, is going to be broken up into graduations. Now, your ruler might have centimetres on it, or it might even be broken down into millimetres. You might use something more accurate, like a pair of vernier calipers or a micrometer or something like this. Might break it down into smaller parts than even a millimetre. Okay, but nonetheless, you're only measuring to the nearest mark on your measuring device. Okay, to the nearest little tick mark on your measuring device. So whether that's the nearest centimetre, nearest millimetre, nearest metre perhaps, or even kilometre, right, there is some level of inaccuracy. You know it's between two things, right, and you choose whichever one it's closest to. Now, we are going to describe this error. We want to quantify it a bit, right? So you measure something. I want to say that my measurement is this. However, there is some room for error within this measurement. It's not a perfect measurement. So the first thing that we do is we're going to talk about the absolute error. Right? The absolute error is the most by which this measurement could be wrong, could be out. Okay. Now, your absolute error is always described as a plus or minus, right? Because it could be above or below, plus or minus, and it is half of the smallest thing you can measure, right? Half of the distance between successive tick marks on your ruler. So, if your ruler measures in centimetres, then your absolute error is plus or minus half of a centimetre. If your ruler measures in millimetres, then your absolute error is plus or minus half of a millimetre. If maybe you've got one of these old rulers that you might have had in year 5 and 6 at school, perhaps you've got a ruler that has half centimetre graduations or even 5 millimetre graduations. Right? Perhaps you've seen one of those. There's a little tick mark in between each centimetre. In which case your absolute error, if you measure something with that, is plus or minus 2.5 millimetres. Okay? So remember this, absolute error plus or minus half of the smallest thing you can measure with your ruler. Okay, that's absolute error. Percentage error, right? Percentage error is your absolute error divided by the measurement expressed as a percentage. Now I'll show you how that works. So here we go. Hillary has a height measured at 164 centimetres. Now, the measurement is to the nearest centimetre. So my absolute error is equal to plus or minus half of a centimetre, 0.5 centimetres. This is how we write plus or minus 0.5 centimetres. So that means that, right, between what values would her actual height be? So that means that Hillary's height is between 163.5 centimetres and 164.5 centimetres. Okay, I've measured it to the nearest centimetre. It could be her actual height could be anywhere between these figures here. Right, so that's this part here done. Great. What is the percentage error? Percentage error is our absolute error equals, so it's a plus or minus 0.5. I divide that by the actual measurement, the 164, and I multiply it by 100%. I express it as a percentage. Let's just pull up the calculator and see how we do this. I'm not going to, not that calculator, let's use this calculator. Yep. I'm not going to put in the plus or minus, and in fact, I'm not going to put the percentage on either, right? I'm going to type it in like this. Watch, 0.5. I don't like using the fraction button, I prefer divided by 164 equals, right? Now, that's this part done. I'll multiply it by 100 to express it as a percentage, Right, I don't press the percentage button though, avoid that percentage button like the plague. And so that means that my percentage error equals, whoops, don't forget the plus or minus symbol there. I'm going to put my calculator up again. Oh, wrong calculator. Is plus or minus 0.3%. That's my percentage error. Don't forget the plus or minus symbol. Don't forget to express it as a percentage. And there we go. That's the percentage error. Now, I've got another example here. Massive trailer load of soil, 260 kilograms to the nearest 10 kilometres. What's the absolute error going to be? Plus or minus 5 kilograms. Did I say kilometres? Kilograms. Right. Half of the smallest thing we can measure. We can measure in 10 kilograms, so it's half of that. So, between what two masses would the trailer load actually be? So it's between 255 to 265 kilograms. That's part A there. Call this A. And B, the percentage error, right, is plus or minus 5 kilograms divided by our measurement of 260, and I multiply that by 100%, equals plus or minus, I think that's 1.9%. Right? Plus or minus 1.9%. There you go, that's absolute error, which is plus or minus half of the smallest measurement. And percentage error, which is your absolute error divided by the measurement multiplied by 100%. Good one. Okay, see you in class.